Ed. Here we go. Here we go. Good evening. We're going to probably cover some familiar verses this evening, but you know what? This is something I think that we need to have brought to our remembrance regularly. So what I need for you to do is to open your Bibles to Job chapter 1, and we're going to talk about something that each and every one of us in here has had at one time or another. And some of us have it more often than we should, and some of us do it regularly, I should say. We're going to discuss attitude. And Winston Churchill said, attitude is a little thing that makes a very big difference. And he's oh so true. Now, what you need to do before we get started here, though, is as you're opening your Bibles, I want you to understand what an attitude is. Okay? Now, everybody in here said, well, I know what an attitude is. And right there, you just had one. Okay? But you had a personal attitude. You didn't have what we're going to discuss this evening is getting rid of your personal attitude. So an attitude is the established ways of responding to people and situations that we have learned based on the beliefs, values, and assumptions we hold. In other words, you get an attitude because of what you think you know, or what you have been taught, or what you perceive to be true. Okay? Now, I didn't say that what you get an attitude for is true. What I said is what you perceive to be true. Okay? An attitude is usually thought of as bad. But we need to remember, you can have a good attitude too. Think about that for a moment. You can have a good attitude. Sometimes it doesn't make any difference. You may not like the situation, but you can have a good attitude about it and get it done. And sometimes that's the best way to do it, is to just laugh at yourself and think, you know what? It don't make no difference. It's going to happen. I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay? Now, I've got about 11 things here that just statements about attitude. And I want to read them to you. The attitude you choose drives your behavior. Now, think about that for a second. If you choose to have a bad attitude, usually anything else that's piled on top of it just adds to it. It makes you decide how you are. Some people, if they have a bad attitude, they get gruffy and roughy, and they have that rah, 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 rah attitude about it. Okay? And usually, you're more acceptable to things being wrong, so you add on to your attitude. So you decide if you're going to have a bad attitude or not. And that's what drives your decisions and the things that you make. Number 2, your body language is a result of your attitude. Now, some people get that, and I can't do it very well, but they get that snapping or whatever it is going on with the attitude thing. No, that's not it. It's kind of that, it's almost like talk to the hand, swag, yeah, all that stuff. Right there it was. She got that hand going on, and I can't do it. I have absolutely no rhythm, so I can't try it. Huh? I have my ways, yes. Kathy is speaking from experience. Okay? But your body language is a result of your attitude. And if, believe it or not, you probably know this already, but most of the time people can tell what kind of mood or attitude you got before you say a word. Okay? It's in here. Number 3, when you choose to get an attitude, good or bad, you send out a message that everyone around you picks up on. It's just like that Peanuts character that walks around with the little cloud over his head, a little thunderstorm going on, and everybody around you notices it. Now, I'm going to be quite honest about this. I usually am pretty upbeat and have a pretty warped sense of humor that I enjoy joking around. I'm not going to lie to you. It happens. But if I am not in a good humor, people know it. People see me coming, and they part ways to get around it. You may You may know someone like that yourself. Charity. Silas is just a little bit that way. But people perceive you. And I'm giving you all this background information because I want you to think about the next time you get an attitude and you say, I don't get attitudes. Oh, yeah, you do. Talk to the people that are close to you. They know you get an attitude. They know how you are. You get up in the morning and you stub your toe walking across to go to the bathroom quickly, you become very angry. And then all of a sudden you're rah! And then they look at you like, what? And the day has started. Now, at that point, you have decided that what decision you made is about what attitude you're going to have. You can stub your toe and say, praise Jesus, it isn't broke, I don't think, and go on. But most of us, and I'm talking about myself, let it start the day and then it goes downhill from there, instead of allowing that just to pass. But people perceive how you are. I'm trying to remember. I think I'm on number 5. 4. Number 4. I was talking. Now, when you get your attitudes, you do it consciously, and sometimes you do it unconsciously. You don't think about having that attitude, but you do. And you put it out there so that people see it. It's just like anything else. You need to take that thought captive and realize that it's not as bad as you think it is. Put the attitude away and keep going. Number 5. Even before you say a word, your attitude can affect the people that are around you, and you entice them to have the same behavior that you have. Have you ever noticed if you go into, especially people that you're with a lot, especially at work, and you go in and you're in a crabby mood, some reason or another, they're in the same bad mood. They always seem to think that their problem is worse than your problem, and you have to prove to them that your problem is worse than their problem. So now you're in a spitting match deciding who's got the most screwed up life. Well, I hate to tell you, everybody does, and it's not a competition. The best thing we can do is support each other and get rid of the attitude that we have and see if we can help that other person. Like I said, it's not a contest anymore. Number 6, just as laughing, yawning, and crying are infectious, an attitude is infectious. If you're happy and people around you, I don't care what goes on. If you smile at them, I'm sorry, they may be frustrated, but if you just don't pick up on it, it just goes. Now, she's sitting here laughing. Linda is. And Bob right beside her is laughing and smiling too. Now, that's either A, an inside joke, or B, it's starting the infection. He yawned. That's okay. My father-in-law pulled up to a stop sign one time and looked over in the yard, and a dog yawned, and so did he. So, it is infectious. Okay? Number 7, very, very, very important number 7. You always have a choice as to what attitude you adopt. Now, I'm kind of gone over the same things here a little bit, but I want you to think about this is if you get into a situation, you decide if you're going to be happy or sad. You decide if you're going to yell and scream. You decide what kind of day you're going to have. You know, sometimes stuff can go really wrong and really bad, but you know what? It really doesn't matter. You choose what kind of attitude and day you're going to have. Because things can go downhill really quickly. But you know, sometimes have you ever got to the end of a day and just stood back and looked at your day and realized what kind of stupid things happened to you during the day? Just dumb things. That accidents happen, things go on. It's not that you're purposely trying to be bad or purposely trying to have a bad day, but sometimes those things just happen. And it seems like the more silly things that we do, the more we should laugh at ourselves. I'm a very organized person. And I could tell Michelle, if she was in here, she would laugh when she heard this. But I got out of the car to go into work one day, and I had my hands full. And I was walking, and I dropped something. And I bent over to pick it up, and when I got ready to pick it up, something else fell out. And then I held on to these two and picked this one up, and when I picked it up, the third thing I was holding fell. And then I picked it up, and then it fell again. I turned back to look at Michelle. I thought she was going to fall out the car. She was laughing so hard. Now, I could have, A, been offended, or realized, B, which is the real thing is, you know what? I just had a moment, and I just let it go. And I can tell her that story. I remind her of that today, and she still laughs. Not because she's laughing at something personally, laughing at me. It's because it was so out of character for the type of person I am that it brings a smile to her face. And I enjoy reminding her periodically just so she'll laugh at it. Number 8. It's not what it's not what happens to you. It's how you react to what happens to you that counts. Okay? Same thing, but it's kind of going along with it. Of your decision. I could have been angry. I could have been mad when I dropped those things. But today I just smile and laugh at it because I thought, you know what? It ain't important. Number 9. Nothing that happens to you makes it absolutely necessary for you to feel one way or the other. If something bad happens to you, there's no reason you should feel bad. If something good happens to you, there's no reason you have to feel great. You choose what you decide on what you're going to do with it. Don't allow Satan to cause conflict in your life to drag down your perception of joy. You decide. Number 10. Again, it's how you feel about something is how you choose to feel about it. It's your choice. Remember, guys, it's up to you. And since you do have a choice, you'd be better off if you choose to react in a positive rather than a negative. Stand back and look at it. You know what? Sometimes you get the best laugh when you laugh at yourself, because you realize that you're taking yourself way too serious. The world is not going to stop spinning because I had a failure, or I did something silly, or something bad happened to me. Okay? What I need to step back and look at it and go, you know what? I probably shouldn't do that one again, because I look kind of silly. See, she's laughing at me right there, and I haven't even said nothing. I want to read, you may have already heard this, but I want to read it to you. It's Attitude by Charles Swindoll. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than success, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a church, a company, or a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we choose to embrace for that day. We cannot change our past, and we cannot change the fact that people will act in certain ways. You cannot change the inevitable. The only thing that you can do is play on the strings that we have. And that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% on how I react to it. And so it is worth you. We are in charge of our attitudes. Scott Hamill, the skater, the only disability in life is a bad attitude. Happiness is an attitude. We either make ourselves miserable or are happy and strong. The amount of work is the same. Okay? So now, knowing that we've got a little bit of a background on it, we need to see how people inside of the Bible dealt with calamity. And we're going to go to the one that most of us think of, and I can't help it. I'm sorry, folks. His name's Job. I know it, but it's Job, but it looks like Job to me. When I went to school, he was Job. If I'd have said Job, they'd have failed me, and I had to have a bad attitude. No, I did. I'm joking. Okay. We're going to start off in Job 1:1, and I'm going to just read through them. And it says, there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, and one who feared God and shunned evil. Job had his priorities in order. He didn't allow what was going on inside of the world to control him. He was in his relationship with God, and he made sure that that was the most important thing to him. We're going to do verse 2 through 4. And 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. Also his possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the east. And his sons would go forth and feast in their homes, each on his appointed days, and would send and invite their 3 sisters and eat and drink with them. Okay? A couple things I want you to think about here. Job had been blessed with a large family and a lot of kids. Okay? Some people say that's not, and some people say that's a benefit, and some people say it's not. I'm from a very large family. Those who don't know, I'm number 9 out of 10 children. I truly enjoy my family. Do we always get along? No. Do we have our discussions? Yes. But you know what? I wouldn't trade any one of them, and I have an attitude of I am blessed because I have multiple people inside of my family. If I'm not getting along with one of them, I just walk over and talk to somebody else. I mean, let's face it. You've got 9 other options. There's only 8 of us. I mean, there's 9 of us living now, so I've got 8 other options of siblings. I don't have to listen to one of them drag me back into whatever problems they have. What I can do is drag them up to the joy that I hope that I can be able to give to them. Okay? Job was the greatest of all the people in the East. I would think that'd be quite a title. He had a wonderful life. If you really look at it, I mean, he was very financially blessed. He had everything that you could think of to be prosperous. He had put God first in his life, and he was living the dream. Okay? Verse 5. So it was when the days of the feasting had run their course, and Job would sin and sanctify them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This Job did regularly. Job was a praying man, and he offered blessings or offerings for his family. He looked out for them. Not only was he looking out for them in their financial realm, but he was worried about what kind of spiritual life they were going to have. Job was a caring man. Okay? Now, Helen Keller wrote something, and I want to put this in here. I really want you to think about this one, because Helen Keller is the one that said it. It says, keep your face to the sunshine, and you won't see the shadows. Keep your eyes upon God, and you're not going to worry about the situation that's going on around you, because you know what's going to be happening, who's providing for you. Keep your eyes on the sunshine, and you don't worry about what's going on around you, the shadows. Now we're going to read verses 6 through 12. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, for where do you come? So Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless, upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? I want to stop right there. How wonderful would it be if he could put your name in there? Think about that. Have you thought about my servant Charity? Have you thought about my servant Ruth? In other words, God's saying, I am so proud of them for being in relationship with me that I'm going to point you out. I'm going to say that I have such faith in you that you are an example to others on the side of the earth. So Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him and his household and all that he has on every side. You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out of the presence of the Lord. 1 Peter 5:8 says, Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to whom he may devour. Satan's out to get us, folks. He wants us to have that bad attitude. He wants us to be bad examples for those around us. Again, it goes back to the same thing of we decide how our attitude is going to be. Are you going to let the situations that's going on around you control you, or are you going to take control of those situations? Job 13 through 19. Now there was a day when the sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest son's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, The oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabarans raised them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants at the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. When he was still speaking, another one came and said, The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came in and said, The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels and took them away, yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Sounds like he's having a tough day. While he was still speaking, another came and said, Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house. And suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead. I not alone escaped to tell you. Now the first messenger came to tell him that his animals were gone. The second one came to tell him that his had burned up the sheep and the servants, and this is the second message, was the only one left to escape to come to it. And the third, they had raided again more of his livestock, and everything that had happened had been done, and he was the only one there. And the big one, number 4, a great wind had blown down Jacob's oldest son's house, and it killed all of his children. And the fourth messenger was the only one to escape. Now, I want you to think for just a second, and I'm serious about this. I want you to think about one of the hardest days you've ever had in your life. I don't think it holds a candle to what Job just got. Not only did everything that would be considered his earthly possessions are gone, but all of his children have died. I can't imagine it. I can't. I mean, I can't even grasp it. And most of us would probably have difficulty in knuckle under if one of these things happened to us. And he had all 4 of them happen back to back to back to back. What I'm trying to tell you here is that Job may have had a difficult situation on this earth, but he did not allow what the world was able to bring against him to cause him to not be in relationship with God. If we're going to see here in just a minute where he goes in his time of difficulty. In Job 1:20 through 22. Then Job arose, tore off his robe, and shaved his head, and he fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong. When we have something goes on inside of our lives, people turn away. They blame God for the misery that's going on. It's not God that's causing these difficulties inside of our life. It's Satan. We shouldn't blame God. We should be angry at Satan for causing all the difficulties that he's trying to cause in our lives. What we need to do is focus ourselves upon God and realize that God is there to redeem us in all these situations. Because of What we think we have lost, we have not truly lost, because God will repay it, will give it back to us. You know, sometimes what you think you have is, oh, this is wonderful. And be all honestly, sometimes it's the things you don't need, because they could be getting in the way between you and your relationship with God. Job, I want to point out, I got 5 points here. It says, he did not faint away, but arose as a champion to the combat. He did not in the heat, number 2, he did not in the heat throw off his clothes, but very gravely, in conformity to the customs of the country, he rent his mantle, his cloak, and outer garments. In other words, he tore his clothes. Have you ever just been frustrated and just kind of threw a little bit of a fit? Oh, come on, folks. I'm not the only one in here going to hold my hand up when all of you here know as well as I do. We have them little hissy fits. We have our little pity parties of, well, why did it have to happen to me? Well, you know what, folks? It happens to all of us one way or another. Each person on this earth, if you're a Christian especially, are going to be attacked by Satan one way or another. But if you're standing back and watching and you see and you know what's going to be coming, you know how to fight the battle. You're not going to lose. You may get knocked down, but it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. He did not passionately tear at his hair, but deliberately shaved his head. You ever had, I'm going to pull my hair out, this is terrible? Some of us, it's not as much as it used to be. And it's not as long as it used to be. I heard the old joke of it doesn't grow up all the way anymore, all the way to the top of the head. It just comes out the ears. Yep. Especially it only gets this far up. Okay? Hey, you know what? We got to have a sense of humor about it. I'm sorry, we have to. What he did is he worshiped and blessed the name of the Lord. Job kept the correct attitude towards the Lord and towards life. And that's what we need to do, folks. Not allow what's going on inside of our life to dictate to us how we're going to be, but what we need to do is to dictate to our life how it's going to be. Yeah. What kind of joy are we going to have? When you get up in the morning and it looks grim, smile and keep it rolling. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody around you is going to have the correct attitude when you're in difficulty. Verses 9 and 10 says, then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? This is some encouraging words right here. Curse God and die. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not really a very uplifting statement to have your spouse give to you. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speak. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Job's wife did not have a very good attitude about it at all. Curse God and die. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like something I really want to do. And number 2, attitude has gone down. I started to say something else, but it's gone down. Now, we're going to look way ahead. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't take time, but this is in chapter 1. If we go to Job 42:10, and the Lord restored Job's loss when he prayed to his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had had before. God did not leave him hanging. God supplied his needs. It didn't say he turned around and there was a brand new livestock and he had a bunch of kids and all that happened in 15 minutes. What it said is that he supplied it. He gave it back to him. And it's in God's time, folks. It's not in ours. Okay. We got a little advice over here. It says, if you want to live a longer, healthier life, you need to develop and maintain a positive attitude. Researchers followed and studied 1,500 people for 7 years. All 1,500 were in good health when the study started. Researchers followed how they aged by measuring such things as weight loss, walking speed, exhaustion, and strength of their grip. I think you'll find it interesting what they discovered. They found that the people who maintained a positive attitude were significantly less likely to show signs of aging. They were less likely to become frail and more likely to become strong and healthier than those who had a negative attitude. Those who had a doom and gloom attitude, you're actually slowly killing yourselves, or at the very least, the negative attitude was making them weaker. If you're always hum and glum, complaining all the time, it makes your body follows along with the words you speak. Oh, it's a terrible day. I don't feel well. Oh, I'm not going to make it through. Well, your body's got to do what you said, because you speak the words of authority, because what you say is what God has said, and you're speaking through the authority of what God has given. So your body has to follow in line with what you say. Number 4, researchers also found that positive thinking and a good attitude improved a person's health because it made them more likely that they would succeed in life. Even though it may look like you're not going to make it, keep a positive attitude about it and you will. And you know what, folks? I just thought about this for a second. God put this on my heart is, if you're keeping a positive attitude and doing what God wants you to do, you're going to be happy wherever He takes you. So you're going to be satisfied with whatever there is going on. Number 5. So not only will a positive attitude help you to be healthy and live longer, but it will also increase the likelihood of your success. Now I'm going to sum this up, and it sounds kind of odd, but if you're going to say it, I'm going to give you this verse, and you may know it. It's not a verse, it's actually just a sentence out of a song. And it says, so oftentimes it happens that we live our life in chains, and we never even know that we have the key. You have the answer. My question to you is, are you going to take that key? Are you going to use it? Are you going to decide to have victory inside of your life? Or are you going to allow Satan to manipulate you in such a way that you're going to be defeated no matter what's going on? Even if something happens, you're waiting for that other shoe to fall. You know it's coming. Something's going to go wrong. It can't be this good. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, it can be that good. Michelle and I yesterday went out and we celebrated our anniversary. We have been married for 31 years. Now, when we got married, 31 years seemed like a long time. But you know what, folks? I love her more today than I did when I married her. She's not the same person, but we have grown together. We have had victory inside of our lives as a couple. We don't look at each other and go, pfft. I mean, because let's face it, we haven't gotten any taller, but we have gotten wider. But there's more of us to love. I just let it go. I just know. I can't imagine life without her. But what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what the physical part of it is, it's what's in here. What I decided a long time ago, to be happy. And she's a great part of that. And so I challenge each and every one of you this evening, as you leave here, take that key, put it in the lock, turn that lock, open that door, allow yourselves to be happy. You know, I learned a long time ago that it doesn't matter if you look stupid. I stand up here and I was terrified that I was going to look like an idiot. And then it happened more than once. That I look like a little bit of both, a little bit of both. But you know what? If people laugh because you say something, and even if you make a mistake, watch it, girl. I see that smile. Look at her. She can't help herself. That's okay. Because you know what? If I can bring joy to your life through the Word of God and help you to have victory inside of it, I've done what God has asked me to do. So as we close this evening, I would like to challenge again for you to take that key, put it in the lock, turn it, and open up your life and allow God to work inside of your life and have the victory that each one of us can have. Let's go ahead and stand to our feet. We're going to have a little time. Kathy, don't worry about it. Just stay. I'm going to open up the altars. And if you've had difficulties with attitude, if you've had difficulties with just not being able to have victory inside of your life, I open up the altars to you to come up and allow God to work inside of your lives. Allow God to show you the options that are available and open to you. I'd be happy to pray with you, but you know what? I don't have all the answers. God does. So we're going to just kind of have a few moments here and open up the altars, and I open them up to you to come forward and allow God to work inside of your lives.